Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you are having a great day with us at CLOSEUP. I am Stacy Shoemaker-Rowan, Senior Vice President of Design at Emerald, and also Editor-in-Chief of Hospitality Design Magazine. We are really excited because in this segment, we are talking change. If you want to know the future, you have come to the right place. I'm so excited to be joined remotely by Royce Epstein, who is the A&D Design Director of Mohawk Group. Hi, so good to see you. How are you?
Nice to see you. I'm great, thank you.
So Royce is going to guide us through current shifts and upcoming trends, which we all want to know about, especially in today's world. I would definitely describe her as a strategist, big thinker, and unparalleled contextual expert. In her future wear presentation, which is just dynamic, you guys are really in for a treat today, she will present 5 ideas driving design now and into the future, exploring critical cultural shifts that are affecting design and lifestyles today. For those of you who might not know the Mohawk Group, I'm sure most of you do, but they are the world's leading producer and distributor of commercial flooring, including modular carpet tile, broadloom and woven carpet, hard surface flooring, and trim accessories for all markets and price points. As the commercial division of Mohawk Industries, Mohawk Group has a heritage of craftsmanship that spans more than 100 years. They believe in using design, technology, and innovation along with their living product sustainability platform to provide world-class solutions for flooring in the built environment. Mohawk takes a human-centered design approach to solve challenges that make interior space more comfortable, safe, and grounded for all inhabitants, which is much needed today. There are so many things to consider in an era of unknowns. We welcome your wisdom and insight to guide us through major shifts happening around us. Over to you, Royce.
I think we have the presentation queued up.
Yes. Please roll the video.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Future Wave, a brief presentation looking at 5 ideas driving design. We will take a glimpse into the future of our design industry through cultural shifts that are affecting how we live, such as the digital revolution, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic. In the waves of change, we find our direction. We are living in a time of great uncertainty today, with the nature of work, home, and public life incredibly disrupted by this pandemic. As a collective industry, designers practicing architecture, interiors, industrial design, fashion, and related disciplines will do what we do best, using our design thinking and creativity to focus on human-centered design solutions to help sustain us. We must begin to think about all aspects of design through this lens of humanity, empathy, and sustainability if we are to move forward during this era of change. We need to expand our definition of sustainability, where we can visualize a world of optimism through resilience, adaptation, and restoration. With our world now damaged and depleted from pollution, climate change, and an overabundance of unhealthy materials, there is a new practice of design emerging, where designers are looking for natural alternatives to synthetic materials, as well as exploring new biomimetic techniques for production. This movement is called Disruptive materiality, where designers are cross-pollinating with biosciences to reinvent materials as we currently know them. Since the mid-century, plastics and synthetic materials have been the mainstay of our consumer lifestyles. But things are changing as we seek bio-based materials and products to help mitigate the damage to the earth. Plastic materials do not biodegrade, and they take 1,000 years just to break down into smaller components, all while leaching chemicals of concern into water and landfill. Therefore, many designers and consumers are looking for bio-based alternatives, envisioning a world where biological fabrication, or biofacturing, replaces synthetic manufacturing. This covers not just materials for the built environment, but also food, cosmetics, and consumer goods like fashion. Some of the more prevalent natural ingredients include algae, mycelium, which is mushroom, organic dyes from fruits and vegetables, bacteria and microbes, and even chitosan, which comes from exoskeletons of lobster and shrimp. Designers are working together with scientists and even farmers to harvest these bio-based materials and then manipulate them into a stable and usable material for design and product development. In the case of mycelium and bacteria, these can be grown into shape or form to create everything from shoes, jackets, furniture, and lighting, and of course, even architectural structures. Shown at left is a chair designed by Eric Clarenbeek, who's known for working with biomaterials and newer design technologies. This mycelium chair was 3D printed using a combination of the thread-like fungi structure of yellow oyster mushrooms, powdered straw, since oyster mushrooms like to grow on straw, and water. The mycelium then grew within the structural components of the chair after being printed, replacing the water. Once the mushrooms were grown, Clarenbeek dried out the straw surface, which was fused as composite material with the mycelium, resulting in a durable yet lightweight frame. He added a layer of 3D printed bioplastic to cover the frame, which prevents the mushroom components from growing any further. So, in this image, the mushrooms are just shown for decoration. Clarenbeek believes that this 3D printing technique, which incorporates living organisms and biomatter, is a sign of things to come. At the right is the work of Malu Lucking, a design student in Berlin who creates textiles from algae. Algae is a water-saving resource for the textile industry, and it also grows in abundance in warmer climate conditions, so global warming actually aids in its availability. Malu's project harvests the fibrous algae from lakes in Germany and utilizes their different qualities to produce textiles. One is a wool-like texture, another is a translucent non-woven fabric, and yet another is turned into a yarn. It can also be processed into a biodegradable bioplastic. Also shown here is the textile dye experiments by Dutch designers Raw Color using vegetables in varying ratios for color saturation. And then there is Neri Oxman, one of the leaders of biodesign, who teaches at the MIT Media Lab with her Mediated Matter research group. Oxman pioneered the field of material ecology, which is the intersection of material science and synthetic biology, along with computational design and digital fabrication. She then applies that knowledge to design across disciplines, media, and scales, from small experimental materials to large design installations. Related to digital fabrication is a new area of design practice called Fidgetal, a term for when physical meets digital. Fidgetal is bringing physicality to the digital world and giving a physical presence to digital things through complex renderings and video. Virtual tactility has emerged as an important feature in renderings, where reality is being reflected through newer versions of our 3D world that seem tangible. There is a whole practice of design now involving this new type of space where the convergence of real and virtual objects coexist only in pixels. This rise of the virtual presence offers the question, can something be a design object if it only lives in the virtual world? One thing we do know is that the online world is getting more real, with hypertexture, new forms, and rich otherworldly color. And this is illustrated in interior and exterior environments, furniture, and things that look like household objects. We are seeing this emerge as a tool for all industries to present new realities. Retail especially has embraced this, presenting new visuals, whether it be rendered places to insert product placements or avatars that resemble real-life humans for promoting products and creating Instagrammable moments. On the left, we see the work of Alexis Christodoulou, an artist who works in this arena of 3D renders. He creates imagined architectural spaces that are stunning, surreal, and dreamy, offering a bit of escapism from reality. The studio of 6 and 5 at center bottom and top left creates still life illustrations and videos, pushing the boundaries of CGI for design purposes. And my personal favorite designers who are working in this Fidgetal realm are Wang and Soderstrom, a Danish duo who focus on combining the digital and physical explorations of materiality and fabrication. They tend to work most closely between the real and the virtual, creating digital and then physical models of their designs. With more humans living, working, and consuming via the internet, especially since the start of COVID-19 pandemic, virtual worlds are quickly becoming embedded into our everyday lives. Just look at how we use Zoom backgrounds, Snapchat, and Stories, where we can create personalized experiences and visuals to display to the world. And as we move towards incorporating digital solutions into our everyday lives, rendered realities will become prevalent. There are many social issues today that benefit from the power of design. We as designers are challenged to analyze the implications of our work from the vantage point of serving humanity. Is our work ethical? Are we sustainable? Are we giving back to our community? Or in other words, does it have social impact? When the pandemic started, we saw a lot of designers, makers, and manufacturers step up and design and create masks and other PPE for healthcare workers. Prior to this crisis, there were a lot of examples of design for the greater good, such as programs for global makers to support their own communities, or pro bono design that creates housing, hospitals, and schools in impoverished areas or for underserved populations. With much of the world in need of basic aid, design is making a difference. This has become more challenging, though, as the world has become rife with global conflicts, climate change, and now this pandemic. We are also expecting climate migration to become a future challenge. Shelter, food, clean water, jobs, asylum, social welfare benefits are some of the major topics of discussion brought on by these multiple crises. But as we move towards a more inclusive and empathic society, we should recognize that inclusion and empathy is an important criteria of design thinking. It is the first and foremost principle in human-centered design. To be truly human, we must have empathy for each other to rebalance and continue to survive in the face of these conflicts. And design must serve all people and populations, including the aging, those with neurodiverse or physical issues, and of course, those in need. One designer working in the realm of social impact is Yves Behar and his firm Fuse Project. Shown at center is a fantastic project of the world's first 3D printed community. Fuse Project partnered with New Story Charity, a nonprofit working to end global homelessness, and Icon, a construction company revolutionizing home building through digital technology. These homes designed by Fuse Project can be constructed in 24 hours for families in Latin America and around the globe to access safe and affordable housing. Fuse Project also designed the now famous One Laptop Per Child initiative and designs today for newborns and the aging population. Also designing for the aging population is Lanzavecchia and Way, who have designed furniture and accessories for the elderly or those with limited mobility. Seeing this as an underserved area of design, this duo was motivated to create products that are user-friendly and fit in with the home environment, unlike typical medical devices and equipment. Other examples of design for social impact include the Warka Water Towers, which helps rural or isolated populations have access to clean drinking water through the installation of these independent towers that don't need to rely on any infrastructure. For those of you who know me or have seen my trend lectures before, you know that I admire and like to study sneakers, as I believe they are small microcosms of society reflected back in the design. The sneakers that are shown here were created actually as a collaboration by Thomson Reuters and the Shoe Surgeon. The sneaker was created to educate consumers about forced labor of workers in the fashion industry. Every detail of the sneaker and the packaging was designed to let consumers know statistics about this issue, such as 25% of slaves in the fashion trade are children. For the launch of this project, they created an unboxing video for YouTube, which showed a sneaker influencer opening the sneaker box and reading all of the facts that were embedded into the design. So the project makes you question, what is the real price of sneakers? We can take lessons from these sneakers, or any of these examples really, and apply them to our design industry. If our industry and other design disciplines included environmental challenges and community while addressing humanitarian issues, the world would indeed benefit. One major focus of designing for social impact is community. Where you live is your community, and the people in your community are your tribe. However, before the pandemic, we were all global nomads who felt at home in every corner of the globe. We were able to go anywhere, experience the world in person, and participate in the global economy, which includes things like Amazon and easy international travel. Of course, technology has made this possible, and digital devices enabled our roaming behavior because we could always stay connected with our various tribes and communities. In reaction to this globalization, however, we have started to see a reversal, one that is more supportive of localism. Localists are community-minded individuals who support local living and local economies. And then there are localists who align themselves with activism for social causes. They support shops and brands that are unique to one's community and value diversity and inclusivity for everyone in their community. Localists also advocate for smart cities and towns where technology is used for the benefit of all citizens, like high-speed transit systems or free Wi-Fi for all. Connectivity is an important feature of local living. As humans, we crave belonging and social inclusion in our community. Smart cities also allow access to green space for its inhabitants, so all have access to nature and our local neighborhoods can be more sustainable and equitable. One example is a project called Print Your City, where a town decides what they need for their community and then collects plastic waste destined for recycling from that neighborhood. The plastics get melted down and 3D printed into new design objects for the chosen public space. So shown here at the right is a bench designed for a town in Greece. Another thing often needed in communities, especially urban ones, is more outdoor gardens and green space. When you live in an urban area where there isn't much space or greenery, something like Grow Room would work great. Designed by Space 10, which is a research and design lab launched by IKEA, the Grow Room is a spherical plywood pod that allows for people to grow their own plants and food locally, even on city streets. The pod is open inside so people can immerse themselves in nature. Grow Room is available as open source design, so you just download the plans, gather the plywood and materials and the parts to make it yourself. So here we are in a new moment, a new cultural shift that is making us question everything. During this pandemic, we are seeing nature replenish itself. Wildlife is repopulating. Carbon emissions have been reduced worldwide without commuters traveling and flying everywhere. And we have an opportunity as we reopen society to reimagine how cities and communities can not just return to normal, but rather remake them better. We can add bike lanes, extend sidewalks to have more walkable cities, add car-free zones, which are better for people's health and well-being, as well as growing local businesses. So design will be a part of this, rebuilding the local community. We can together reset the function of the street, be better neighbors and localists, and advocate for one another. We are living in extreme and trying times where global warming, terrorism, nationalistic politics, and the pandemic are threatening our sense of safety and security on the planet. We are finding ways to survive and adapt to today's harsh realities. In many cases, we need to be self-reliant since people can no longer rely on their local or national governments to protect them. As such, we're seeing more protective clothing and gear to shield us from the elements and from the coronavirus. Masks and protective clothing have become essential for survival, and utility will most certainly become the design language of the future, like these inflatable jumpsuits by Craig Green. These jumpsuits, with their padded hoods and extended flaps, seem to have protection and social distancing already incorporated. Physical distancing will begin to be implemented in public space and the workplace, and we will need to practice new behaviors to protect each other. Barriers, shields, and other types of devices and materials will become integrated into our lives. We have seen furniture solutions for privacy in the open plan workplace before the pandemic, such as this hooded screen by Moto Wasabi. But now we're going to see these types of furniture items having a dual use, where they will serve as physical enclosures to physically separate us from one another. We will need to look at cleanability, of course, and what the long-term ramifications are to the human psyche. One interesting project that speaks to survival is the installation called Another Generosity, designed in 2018 by London Architecture in Finland. The inflatable pods are filled with air and water, which of course is what we as humans need to survive. These pods react to changes in the environment through sensors. So for example, when a person enters the pod, carbon dioxide from our exhaled breath is detected and causes the pod to move as it's also exhaling. The glowing light also changes color with temperature changes, so while these pods do not have a functional purpose as a protective structure, they illustrate that there is a symbiosis between man and our environment, and it's quite delicate. What we emit, like carbon, affects the world around us, and of course vice versa. I think these types of examples will show that while we need to survive certain factors in nature, nature is also affected by our human bodies and our human behaviors. I'll leave you with that last example because it's a good place to ponder what's next and how we can collectively design not just for our own survival, but for that or nature itself. How will we sustain? So I hope you enjoyed seeing a bit into the future of design based on these current drivers in culture today. Everyone, please stay healthy and safe, and thank you for listening and joining us here today.
Royce, that was amazing, super inspirational. So thank you so much. I think it's what we all needed to see because I think there's some exciting things that are coming out of this pandemic and changing how we design and how we think about life in general.
Absolutely. I'm glad I got to share that with everyone. These are things that I've been thinking about for a long time as, Mohawk, Mohawk Group's official or maybe unofficial trend forecaster. I'm always looking to what's happening in culture. And a lot of people think that's sort of a glamorous endeavor, but it's really not, because you're looking at the economy and politics and war and all the sort of bad things that are happening in the world, and, along with the good things. But how is that, changing, how we behave and how we consume? And so I just love it because, I have an art history background. I think about context. So really that drives a lot of trend research and just thinking about, like, where are we today, but what's coming around the pipe.
And I love how you incorporate sneakers as well, because I'm a true believer that it is its own little microcosm of trend setting.
Yeah, for sure. I usually have a pair of sneakers in every trend forecast that I do, so I had to include them here.
Love it. So how is Mohawk best embracing societal and design shifts as a company? Because there's a lot going on, and currently and even before COVID, you guys were always adapting. But how do you do that, and how do you help lead where that heads?
That's actually a big strategic part of our product development and design team, which I'm on the design team. And we really think about a much more holistic view of design. We want to create products that resonate with our customers and really our customers are the A&D community. But beyond that, what do end users want? What are they going to live with for a long time? And so we're always aligning, design with innovation. We do a lot of our own R&D, like, innovating yarn, for example, or backings. And those things are important because we can implement sustainability, platforms and techniques and things like that. So we're always using that along with the trend research that we do to make sure that we're always staying on top of what's new, but also what's next and what is really going to resonate on a deep emotional level with our customers. So the trend forecasting that I do, I create what we call a color and design vision. So we have that every year as a CEU that we present to our customers. But then the information that's in that actually drives our product development.
Love it. Well, speaking of product development, let's have a look at 4 of your newest collections, and maybe you can give us the stories and innovations behind them, because that's what CLOSEUP is all about. Okay, so we're looking at Smart City.
Yes, so this is one of 2 styles of Smart City, and we actually developed this with Gensler. We have a nice product development partnership with them, working on a couple of things. And this was based on research that Gensler had done about smart cities. And so smart cities are those urban areas that are using technology to leverage kind of health and wellness and just functionality for the greater good of all, the inhabitants. In this particular product, we looked at the idea of transit systems and how that represents connectivity. And so something very simple like having a high-speed transit system that's very functional. If you can shave off an hour a day of your commute, it makes your life a lot better. And then you can do things like exercise or take a walk outside. And so, all these things are related, to having the inhabitants sort of have a better lifestyle. So we used white papers actually in the research that Gensler did to translate that. And for Mohawk, this was our first carbon net neutral product. We call it carbon positive because we practice the living product platform, which means that we're hand printing. So we're giving more resources back than we take to make the product. And so this is like, carbon neutral, but we call it carbon positive because there's a hand printing aspect where we're teaching people about smart cities and about, carbon emissions and things like that.
I love that. And we'll get more into the carbon positive in a bit, but let's look next at Newtopia 2.0.
Yeah, so Newtopia we designed with Gensler as well, and it's a really great product because it has a kind of a poetic metaphor in it, which is about the melting pot of cities. And this has it's a system of 3 tiles, or planks. One is a ground, one is the ground where it meets color accent, and then one is the accent. So we're actually showing all 3 of these in this installation that you see on the screen. And that allows to create pathways in circulation. And you can create, some very simple things. You can color block, you can texture block, but more importantly, you can really have some great wayfinding. And I think, with COVID and thinking about how to transition spaces into comfortable and safe and, especially with social distancing sort of embedded into the design, systems thinking is going to be really important. And that's a product that really is a system that allows you to create, sort of intentional pathways. So people have visual cues on the floor and they know where to walk and where to wait and where to, work. It's just all sort of instinctual. And it's also biophilic. We're using heathered yarns that look like wool. So they're very sort of warm and, they give you the warm and fuzzies. And they're really nice to look at, and we spend all our time indoors now. I think the latest statistic I heard was like 90% of our time is indoors, especially because of COVID. And for me, it's even more. I rarely go out. And so, we're not seeing all those textures in nature that our bodies are designed to see, like trees and bark and sand and water and, clouds and whatnot. And so, especially for those people who live in urban areas, it's really important to see textures from nature. So, that's another example of how we're innovating, creating a new yarn that looks like wool to connect to biophilia and using that in a product like this.
Right, and it's subtle, even, which I love. I mean, it's dynamic but subtle at the same time. So you're not screaming at a person to go this way, right? Like there's instead of those decals that you see now, it's beautifully designed and fluid at the same time. I love it. Okay, we're going next to Optic Reset, which is a brand new collection, correct?
Yeah, this just launched a few weeks ago, and Optic Reset is actually playing off of trends from our latest color and design vision, which is called the Visual Age, and it's really all about how we, or really how design has changed since Instagram and our camera phones. So it's a really interesting study about light and color filters and how we can create like positive, negative space using light and shadow. So that's really what this product is about. It's a beautiful product, also using our heathered yarn. And we have a lighter version and a dark version. And the light version has like a whitish yarn in it. It's so beautiful. So this is a great example on the screen here of how you can delineate space like a circulation path versus a waiting area or a lounge space in this time of COVID, where it's done in a much softer way as opposed to ad hoc way, like you mentioned, with stickers or signs or tape or something like that.
Yes, exactly. And last but certainly not least, Large and Local, which is your LVT collection.
Yes, so we have an LVT plant in Georgia, which is really nice.
That's
most
awesome.
LVT is made in Asia, and so we're really happy that we have a plant that is local. So we design our own print films, we make it locally in Georgia. And what I love about Large and Local is it's a wood look, but it has two distinct looks. So one is a little more monolithic and cleaner, and one is definitely sort of a rustic wood look where you see the cathedrals of the wood and the grain. But what I love about it is that we have some contrasting colors, so you can really activate a space by creating a graphic on the floor. So I love this image because, again, in this time of COVID, we need to keep people too walking in a specific direction in a space. So you can create some really fun activated zones just by, using two colorways of the same product. So
that's great. And was that developed during COVID, or were you already starting to work on it and then it was serendipitous that it helps, post-COVID as well?
Yeah, these were all developed before COVID, and a lot of things launched. In fact, Smart City launched right as we started to have lockdown. And that was an interesting, proposition for us because, normally we're taking products out. Like that's a big part of my job is traveling to A&D firms all around the country and sharing our products. So, switching and pivoting to online was, we did it. And I think it was relatively easy. My colleagues might disagree with me. But like Smart City, I remember came out at that time. So instead of like going to the mill and shooting a video, I shot it from my music studio that I'm sitting in right now / office, where, I had all the samples laid out and my dog decided to just troll, walk right in and plop down in the middle of the video. So he's now, Mohawk famous. So, that's what it is. But, product development takes a long time. I think most people understand that. And a lot of times we're on like sort of an 18-month, trajectory to get products out. I will say that we've been really good at not being waylaid by delays during COVID. We were able to be smart and, have people at the mill work in shifts and be safe, of course, but continue our product pipeline. So we didn't really miss a beat there, which has been nice to be able to have products, for our customers, because there's still lots of activity going on in our market, which is great.
Always good to hear. And you mentioned collaboration, right, with Gensler, and I know there's been others, but what makes a good collaboration or a successful collaboration in your mind?
Ooh, I think, one of the things I like about collaborations is what you don't know ahead of time, like what you're going to learn
Yeah.
from the collision of working with someone, because a lot of times, like we'll work with a collaborator, like 13 and 9 is a great example. They're in an architecture and industrial design firm in Austria. And we've done a number of collaborations and products with them. And every single time we work together, like we learn something new. That is just a surprise, like we designed relaxing floors with them. That was our latest collection. And that was all about evidence-based design using fractals and science that we collaborated with Dr. Richard Taylor. He's a professor of physics at the University of Oregon, and he's been studying the eye and how our eye sees fractals in nature. And we have a physiological response in our body that calms us down when we see these fractals in nature. So like, that's not something I think we ever bargained for learning,
Right.
down the road, but we learn these things and we incorporate them into the product. And now we have a great stress productive product.
That's awesome.
So that's awesome. Yeah.
And you mentioned social impact and design for the global good, design that serves all and design for all. How much emphasis are you seeing in terms of projects that are measuring their long-term societal impact?
That's a good question. I know that like ASID, for example, has a program called Outcome of Design, where they actually give awards to projects that are measuring things like social impact. I do think that this is a growing and new kind of practice or area of practice, and it's in its infancy. So I think if we can start thinking about it now, especially design firms, like how do you measure these things? Like for a long time, we've been measuring workplace statistics and metrics or sustainability metrics. So I think now it's time to sort of move into that arena. And we have to, I think we have to, because design, the world is clamoring to be more inclusive, and I think design can lead in that way.
Yes, for sure. And we're almost out of time, but just to wrap up, talking survival and, getting through all of this, and we will, I know. It will be different, and it is already, but we're all learning to adapt, obviously. What is your message of positivity for our design community, especially, all that you're seeing and tracking, which was such a source of inspiration to start us off today?
Well, I think I have two messages there. One is that we have to return to humanity. We have to figure out like what makes us human, but also how we can be human together and not be so divisive. Obviously there are political things that affect that, but we never used to be like that. So we need to get back to a place where we can have some, common empathy for each other and patience, and again, inclusion. And I think that involves being expansive, like just everyone taking a step back and thinking about like, how can sustainability be more expansive? How can, our interior design, architecture, industrial design profession be more inclusive and expansive? So that's sort of one thing, is like just taking a step back and think about like, how can I return to humanity in a way. Right. And then the second thing is like moving forward. That's my mantra. I actually have a tattoo on my leg that says Avanti, which is Italian for, keep going forward. And it's a really good message for all kinds of strife in life, whether you're sick. I got that tattoo because I had breast cancer. But, it's good if you're going through a divorce or a pandemic or whatnot. Like there's always going to be some sort of strife in life, and it's never like, this like amazing. It can be amazing, but and I think even in the stressful times, you can turn anything into a learning moment and a moment of positivity. And that's something that I try to do in my life. I always like, think tomorrow's another day to make it better and make it right.
Well, I just absolutely love that. Thank you so much for this wonderful conversation and trends presentation. It's always so great to get the insight from you, Royce. And you can see more at mohawkind.com, and you can follow Mohawk on Instagram at Mohawk Group. Thank you again, Royce. Always a treat.
Thank you for having me. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.
Next up, I will send it over to Wanted Design's Charlene Lamb before a quick break, and then William Hanley from Dwell is back with more amazing innovation from the North American studios. Charlene?
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Royce and Mohawk Group, for that amazing presentation. Really loved what you said about how we all need to be human together and to bring back a sense of that humanity. And that's what we're trying to do here at CLOSEUP, to bring us together in the best way that we can with the limitations that we can. So thank you for those of us who are joining in person as well as virtually.